Which wrestler was fired because of the unforgivable sin of having their shirt become untucked during a match? Who received a pink slip on their wedding day? And which WWE superstar got the axe while they were pregnant? I'm Senor Siete for 7 Wrestling. Let's take a look at 7 WWE wrestlers who were fired in brutal ways. Now, before we jump into this, if you enjoy this video, please do us a solid and subscribe to the channel. All it takes is a little clickety-click, and then we'll be able to hang out again. Number 1, play it straight. WWE loves to talk a big kayfabe game, kayfabe being the old school rule that wrestlers act like their character is real. Back in the day, breaking kayfabe was a big deal. The infamous curtain call in 1996 saw stars hug it out in the ring and earned real penalties for violating the illusion. It cost Triple H a big push as the king of the ring for that year, and he never recovered. Fast forward to the streaming era and WWE's behind-the-scenes docuseries on Netflix, you got Mr. McMahon, and WWE Unreal literally invites fans into the writer's room and admits that the drama is all scripted, a formal breakup with the pretense of, hey, this is all real. Meanwhile, WWE talent openly posts their personalities on social media, celebrities show up on Raw to cross over into the storylines and out. Modern stars openly discuss booking in interviews, which to old school purists is basically a sledgehammer to the head of kayfabe. Yet at one point, WWE cracked down on kayfabe so hard that it fired a woman for not living her on-screen persona in real life. Serena Deeb was part of CM Punk's Straight Edge Society, a cult-like faction where members publicly abstained from drugs and alcohol. When she was seen drinking off camera, WWE reportedly canned her for not living her gimmick, effectively punishing her for having a life outside the ring. Yeah, they fired a grown woman for doing something perfectly legal in her spare time. You see, that's the modern WWE paradox. They will openly strip away kayfabe for documentaries and social media branding, yet in 2010, they expected a performer to avoid, say, grabbing a drink because her character wouldn't. The result? A firing that now reads like a punchline about wrestling trying to be real at all the wrong times. Number 2, Brad Attitude. Brad Maddox's WWE career is one of those head-scratcher stories that feels like it was written by someone who half-watched every wrestling trope ever. He started off in the developmental ranks, wonder what kind of trouble he got into there, worked refereeing before being revealed as a sneaky heel at Hell in the Cell 2012, costing Ryback the WWE title with a low blow, classic secret villain referee stuff. He then inexplicably ascended into the world of authority figures, becoming general manager of Raw, spot usually reserved for people older than the hard camera lens. So far, it sounds like every underdog story ever, until the ending. 2015, after a few forgettable weeks off TV and more dark matches than meaningful moments, WWE released Maddox for literally calling a live crowd pricks during a dark match promo at a SmackDown taping. That's journalistically confirmed. Vince McMahon, notoriously protective of WWE's PG-friendly image, reportedly hated that particular word so much that it cost Maddox his job. Now, to put that in context, this was not televised, not on WWE Primetime TV, not a storyline beat, it was a pre-show promo. And calling them a mildly rude word was a firing level offense. On the Something to Wrestle podcast, JBL would say, I talk with Vince a lot. I flew with Vince a lot. Vince told me one day, he goes, that kid's special. It's the only time I've ever heard him say that. He said nicer things about people, but the way he said it, like, this kid's got it, you don't hear that from Vince very much. Vince really liked Maddox. And then he went out there, I'm sitting there waiting for a pre-show, I'm sitting there waiting to go out with Michael Cole, and that's when Maddox called the fans a bunch of pricks or something. He comes back and Vince fired him. Vince hated that word. He thought that was a classless word. And if there's one thing Vincent Kennedy McMahon is known for, it's being classy. Number 3, flight risk. The plane ride from hell wasn't just a chartered flight, it was a 7-hour corporate liability nightmare. What went down on that Boeing 757 after Insurrection 2002 reads like a frat boy fever dream with zero boundaries. Picture it, the entire WWE roster, way too much alcohol, and not enough common sense. Now, one of the most notable incidents was an impromptu in-fight wrestling match between rookie Brock Lesnar and legend Kurt Mr. Perfect Hennig. At one point, the duo bashed into an emergency exit, scaring the crap out of everybody who was watching, even though the odds of that door opening in a pressurized airplane are pretty much zero. But here's where things get weird. Kurt Hennig got fired afterward for his part in the chaos. Meanwhile, some performers who crossed far more serious lines walked away with little more than a slap on the wrist. Take example, Ric Flair. According to flight attendants' accounts later uncovered in Dark Side of the Ring, Flair strutted up and down the plane in just his robe, allegedly exposing himself and forcing the hands of the flight attendants onto his genitals. WWE even settled lawsuits over the allegations out of court. Goldust also contributed to the mayhem. He commandeered the PA system to drunkenly serenade his ex-wife Terry Runnels and made sexually suggestive comments towards the flight crew. So yeah, WWE fired Hennig, arguably for horseplay, while even more egregious behavior by others resulted in reprimands at most. Number 4, Dawn Gone. In January of 2005, the WWE managed to pull off a feat so tone-deaf it still makes HR professionals flinch. They fired Dawn Marie while she was pregnant, straight up released while carrying a child. Now, in an industry already allergic to good optics, this was a full-on self-inflicted chair shot. Dawn Marie wasn't some fringe extra either. She was a regular on TV, neck deep in one of SmackDown's most infamous soap opera storylines, and very visibly part of the roster. Then she informed the WWE that she was pregnant, and shortly afterwards, she was gone. WWE's explanation leaned in on the classic corporate shield, calling her an independent contractor. Translation, we technically don't have to care, so we won't. Which naturally leads to the question everyone has asked then and still asks now, aren't there laws against this? In normal workplaces, yes, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act exists specifically to stop employers from pulling this exact move, but WWE's long-standing classification of wrestlers as independent contractors instead of employees gives them just enough legal wiggle room to skate past basic decency like it was a suggestion, not a requirement. Now, Dawn Marie didn't just shrug off and move on. She sued the WWE for wrongful termination, emotional distress, and unpaid medical expenses. The case dragged on for years before being quietly settled in 2007, which is corporate speak for let's all agree to never talk about this again and we'll pretend that we learned something. And the cruel part isn't just that she was fired, it's that WWE looked at a pregnant woman and decided the cleanest solution was a FedEx box. And yeah, the majority of Dawn Marie's gimmick was running around looking hot in her underwear, and that might not be the best move when you're pregnant. Although some people are super into that. Hey, we're not judging. Sorry, we're way off topic. What we're saying is, in an era known for tasteless angles, this wasn't edgy. It was just ugly. Number 5, Groom Gloom. By early 2014, CM Punk and the WWE were clearly drifting apart. Punk had been putting on banger matches, letting his sideburns take over his face, and carrying himself as the best in the world while slowly baking in injuries, including what he later said was a misdiagnosed staph infection that should have got him off the road, not stuck in another match. Fans could feel the frost. Punk seemed permanently annoyed, well, more than usual. Backstage communication had all the warmth of an unplugged space heater, and chants of CM Punk started hijacking Raw segments like a hostile takeover. Looked at from a business angle, it wasn't a surprise when Punk and the WWE split. The chemistry was gone. Creative was trudging through the relationship like it was a tax seminar. And when Punk was set up for a WrestleMania match against his then real-life arch-enemy Triple H, he took as many tattoos and he went home. But here's where WWE went full cartoon villain. Instead of a clean, professional farewell, Punk claims he got termination papers FedExed to him on the very day he was getting married, June 13th, 2014, citing breach of contract as the reason. Punk saw it as a calculated slap. WWE later said it was a legal department scheduling snafu and offered a public apology, which Punk dismissed as a stunt. In other words, yeah, the relationship was over, but doing it on his wedding day was petty. Petty even for this guy. Number 6, 2 for 1. Charlie Haas and Jackie Gator were never going to headline WrestleMania and titanium capes and fire-breathing pyro, but damn if they didn't carve out a solid little niche in WWE's mid-card universe. Haas was a credible tag team talent who won the WWE tag team belts alongside Shelton Benjamin and Rico and had a legit technical wrestling resume. Gator, tough enough champion, turned on-screen valet, and occasional ring performer who brought some levity and charisma to bland TV segments. Just Gotta keep her away from Trish Stratus. Together, they became a quirky on-screen couple with some chemistry, the kind of act that keeps bottom half shows watchable while everyone above them argues over who gets to main event. Then WWE does what WWE does best, punch the clock on compassion, and fired them both immediately after their honeymoon. Haas would tell WrestlingEpicenter.com, "You're married 3 weeks and then they let you go." At least they didn't do it during the wedding or right before the wedding, and then called the timing a bunch of BS. WWE's own coverage even noted the release came the day after they got back from their honeymoon, so hey, at least they know they're a-holes. That's right. Amid honeymoon tan lines, WWE handed them both their walking papers. This is why Jim and Pam were so nervous with both of them working for Dunder Mifflin when it was about to be sold to Sabre. Even by WWE's famous ruthless standards, firing a newly married couple immediately after their wedding isn't just bad timing, it is friggin' cruel. Fans at the time and since have called the incident one of the more tone-deaf firing decisions in company history, a move that turned a sweet real-life love story into an awkward career detour. Number 7. Things for Nothing. Gangrel was one of those Attitude Era characters who was cool in a moody, vampire cult sort of way. As a leader of the Brood alongside Edge and Christian, he helped make bloodbath angles feel theatrical and iconic. Here's the trick, is to put the bucket over the wrestler. It's the little things. Gangrel had the fire, the fangs, the gothic music and all. The dude walked through pyro, carried a goblet of blood on TV. Awesome entrance. That's peak television. But apparently, one day in 2001, Gangrel made the cardinal sin of forgetting to tuck his shirt into his tights, revealing his pudgy midsection, and Vince McMahon lost his mind. Instead of coaching him on wardrobe discipline or adjusting the costume department or, encouraging him to work on his tummy tum-tum, WWE reportedly fired him outright. Yeah, fired, because his shirt wasn't tucked. And this was one of the more popular, mid-card gimmicks, but apparently Vince McMahon was reportedly enraged by the visual of Gangrel's stomach and decided that was grounds for release. There's a bleak comedy to this. The WWE creative team booked vampire, blood, mysticism, and dramatic entrance pyros, but the human body, showing a normal stomach, was suddenly a corporate hill to die on. And yet, decades later, fans still remember the Brood fondly. And in Gangrel's defense, the dude is a vampire. It is possible he is centuries old, and you expect a 145-year-old to have abs? Well, there's our list. Can you think of any other times wrestlers were fired in cruel ways? If so, please let us know in the comments section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. It's just a click, and we would love to see you again. Till next time, I'm Senior Siete for 7 Wrestling saying bye-bye.